Welcome to the Successful Home Inspector Podcast, where we discuss everything you need to know about home inspection from A to Z. Brought to you by Preston Sandlin and Home Inspection Carolina. We're here to share some success stories and some not so successful stories. Some things we can all learn from, and maybe, just maybe, we can help each other and raise the profession. So sit back, turn up the volume, and enjoy. Now, here's your host of the Successful Home Inspector Podcast, Preston Sandlin.
Hey, home inspectors out there, I'm here to bring you a strategy that will increase your business, and it's easy. Go to homeinspectionflyers.com, get you 5 flyers, put your logo, your information, your testimonials in there, send them off to the printing company. Within a week, you get a box full of flyers at your door, ready to go. You've got all your marketing materials for the month. Take out flyer number 1, that whole how many offices you serve. Hit those offices with those flyers and candy, and hope you have candy bowls in those offices. I'm telling you, you will increase your business. Pick out some flyers you can get into. Again, homeinspectionflyers.com. Here's the formula. homeinspectionflyers.com. Get the flyers, fix them up, send them off to get printed. They come to your door. You take them. You get candy. You go to the offices, and you will increase your business. Thanks for listening.
All right, listeners, I am here with you got a special treat this evening. I got a buddy of mine I've known for a long time, Mr. Jim Davis out of Houston, or the Houston, Texas area. How you doing this evening, Jim?
I'm doing fantastic, Preston.
Well, first of all, thanks for your time, and I know all the listeners are glad to have you. I've known you for several years, and he's always got some good advice, and he's like E.F. Hutton. When he talks, everybody listens. So I'm gonna probe him for a couple of some good information here. So first of all, Jim, tell us the listeners a little bit more about you, so we can get to know you personally.
Well, sure. I of course, I'm in Houston, and actually live in Katy, which there are so many little towns in Houston that make up Houston. People wouldn't know if I told them I was from Katy, but anyway, it's a Houston metro area, and have been here for a long time, and have been married to my wife for 36 years.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Today kind of a record. And you thought I was like 45, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was going to tell you, you're starting to look, and it's a good thing. You're looking, what's the guy, the Virgin Airline guy? What's his name? Branson. You're looking like Richard Branson, man.
Oh, good.
That's a billionaire, man.
I just need a little of his money. That'd be great, yeah. And so anyway, we've got a couple of kids, and our kids are 30 and 25, son and daughter, and my daughter's in medical school, and the son lives in Houston, and he's not with us, thank goodness, at 30, but he's in town, works for an engineering firm here, so really like it. Probably not go anywhere else. This is kind of home to us, and probably always will be.
Oh, awesome. Man, you got a daughter in medical school. She must have been pretty smart.
She's a smart girl. Yeah, she's got her mother's brains. Absolutely no doubt about it. And
you beat me to it, man. I was going to say
my son does too. He graduated from a little university. He's got his engineering degree from a little university called Clemson. You may have heard of it. I don't know. So both the kids got the wife's intelligence. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, but same thing in my house. They both make really good grades. They don't take after me on that. And the Clemson, Clemson's, the reason Jim said that is it's right below us. I'm in North Carolina. That's in South Carolina, and Clemson and South Carolina are big rivalries. And there's all these Clemson jokes. What is it? Rednecks turn orange in the fall. All dirt roads lead to Clemson. I could go on and on.
Yeah.
But anyway, we got to get on. Well, Jim, not too many of us grew up wanting to be a home inspector. I wanted to be a pilot, but I didn't even know what a home inspector was when I was a kid. So tell everybody, how did you become a home inspector, and what did you want to be when you were a kid?
Well, it's interesting. I never wanted to be a home inspector because I didn't know what a home inspector was, but I loved homes. And if you've read my bio, my dad was in the service, and he was an enlisted man in the Army, and he didn't make a whole lot of money back then. And so what he would do is he would purchase homes that he would rent out to the GIs coming stationed at the base there. And so I would help him do that, and I got kind of into just loving homes, and we made all the repairs ourselves, from roofing to plumbing to you name it, because we didn't have any money. It was strictly because that's what we had to do. There wasn't any hiring anybody, and if Dad had to hire a person, he would make sure he looked at what they were doing to make sure that he could duplicate it, because we didn't have enough money to pay for them 2 times. And so I got interested in houses and rental properties that way. And I always wanted to do something in homes, but then I, went off to college, went the corporate route with the degrees and all that, and then into that career, then I started doing investing in homes. I started doing the rental property thing, and then when my last corporate gig kind of stopped, I looked at it and I thought, I think that I know enough about homes with the investment that I'm making and the flips. I will flip properties and things like that. I could probably do the home inspection thing too. Sounds pretty good. That's how I got into that. So I can't say I always wanted to be one, but I always enjoyed doing things with homes. That was always from very early on, probably 12, 13, 14 years old, because I was helping Dad, and it was great. And those investments that he made back then in homes helped my mother to have a really nice retirement until she passed away. So real estate's always been a kind of a real important thing in my life. And in the last 15 years, I've managed to turn it into the home inspection piece. But I still invest in properties, and occasionally I'll do a flip house. So that's a roundabout answer to your question. But when I was a real little kid, I probably wanted to be a pilot or something.
Me too.
I didn't want to be a jet pilot, right? But
me too.
But then Dad put me behind a paintbrush and a hammer, and I kind of that all went away. So
yeah, well, I still, I always wanted to be a pilot. Then one day I did an inspection for a guy who was a pilot, and I was talking to him, and he said he had to downsize because he got let go. Because his airline got bought by another airline, and they were consolidating. He didn't have seniority, and I was like, wow. Yeah. Maybe God's working in mysterious ways or something.
Yep.
And we could always go back and get a pilot, be a private pilot or something. But well, that's great that you own rental houses. We own a couple too. We got all into the Rich Dad Poor Dad thing, all that. Of course, that's a great book. I'm a big fan of Robert Kiyosaki, although there's some things he didn't tell you in there. He need to write a couple more chapters. But all right, so if I heard you right, I think you said you've been in business about 15 years. Tell us about some of the changes that you've seen.
Well, mostly the change for me personally was the movement from understanding the marketplace, and then moving into understanding it and doing something about it, rather than just thinking that as from a technician standpoint that you get your license is what you need to do. So a lot of the changes were with me. We've had licensing in Texas now for probably 20 years, I guess. So there were guys who had been doing this since I got in the business that had real low license numbers, and some of those guys are still around. But what I watched is I went the apprentice route, believe it or not. Instead of, you could go and take the education courses and become a licensed inspector in the state of Texas, never even been in a house, okay? But I wanted to go the apprentice route, which meant I had to go find somebody that would let me follow them around for free and carry the ladder for free. Because I really wanted to know about how it really functions. So how does it really? Because reading about it in a book, of course, and actually out on the job is totally different. And so I got to watch these guys, and I also started to understand that they didn't market very well. They'd been in the business and had their license a while, but they didn't really do anything about the marketing side. So what I saw, and my change that I needed to make, was I needed to get out of that thinking of it's purely a technical job, and realize that it's really a marketing job. You're just offering a technical service. You're marketing a technical service, and so the change for me was I looked back the other day. I was throwing away a bunch of old files, and I actually looked at I had an old spreadsheet, and you still may have one of these, where you would look at last year versus this year. You'd look at what the plan was, and you'd go through, and my goal was for my average inspection to be 200. I looked at that.
Oh, wow.
I thought, wow, that's 15 years ago. But
that was ambitious.
Yeah, and then now it's around 750. So that's really changed, right? Obviously, but I do a whole lot less inspections now than I had to before. But I make a whole lot more money, and it's kind of a strange dynamic. But I think over the years I've never really been as interested in number of inspections. I've always been interested in average inspection price. Because to me, I'd rather do less inspections and make more money. And a lot of guys don't get that. They'll brag about doing 3 a day. It's like, have I done 3 a day? Sure, but I don't want to do 3 a day. I really want to do 1.5 a day at a 750 average, and that works for me. The numbers work for me. So that's the change really that I've seen, and I kind of reminded of it the other day when I was throwing out those old inspection reports and that old spreadsheet. But yeah.
Right. No, and something else about doing less inspections at a higher fee, it's less liability. That guy who's bragging about 3 inspections, man, he's got a ton more liability than the person who did 1. I've always talk to my guys, I say, there's 2 ways to make more money in this business. It's do more inspections, or offer more value, per inspection, get paid more per inspection. And the second one is much more appealing because it's less driving, less liability, and that's the route that you're on to, which I think is brilliant. It's smart. Now, I want to back up on something that you said there, Jim. You said a lot of these guys are technicians and they didn't know how to market, and that was the piece that you felt like was missing. And I've known you for a while, and I know you're a brilliant marketer. Are you still heavy? I know you were heavy onto the internet and search engine optimization and stuff like that. Do you still do a lot with that, or how are you marketing these days?
Well, I think what I discovered in my business is that about 80% of my clients are from referrals from agents, and I know we home inspectors like to say we hate agents. We'd like to do without them and all that stuff. But to me, it's 80-20. Okay, it's 80% of my business is going to come from agents. 20% is going to come from other places, and that other place is the internet. And you have to have it. But I think that if you focus only on that, what you'll get is what's now taken over for Yellow Pages is the internet, where people will just go down and call and ask pricing. So you haven't really helped yourself. Whereas on the other side, when you have a relationship with someone, when an agent recommends me, people will go to the internet to find information about me. So it confirms what the agent has recommended, which is really where when you get a high referral business, to me, is what the internet really does for you. It's not necessarily showing up on page 1. It's being able to type the name and good things come up about you. And
right.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, this is why she recommended this guy, because here's all the stuff. Here's the reviews and all that. If you don't have that, it's just the agent's word. And a lot of, especially younger buyers, they like to do research on the internet. And even when an agent recommends someone, they'll do research on that person. And so that 20% of my business that does come from the internet, the profit margins are much lower, is what I've discovered. Now, if you're just getting started in the business, that's one of the only places you have to go, because obviously you have no relationships at that point. You're going to try to make those relationships, but you'll starve waiting for those to come around. You've got to be in a pay-per-click situation, and you're just going to have to spend some money to get in there. And I did that early on, and that was one of the things that brought in business. But expect the profit margin on it's going to be lower. than the ones who simply say, call Preston for this inspection. They don't call you and say, hey, Preston, how much do you charge? They call and say, when can you do this inspection for me? And that's the kind of client that you can charge a good rate for, that's worth your time, and they're going to get a great value and a good inspection, and they don't mind paying for it. So I think the whole reputation thing is and referral is really what I've changed to over the years. And but depending on where you are in your career cycle in home inspections, I think at first you got to spend 80% of your time getting your name out there on the web. And then slowly, because what I discovered is when I would go out and make inspections where people found me on the internet, the agents would see me because they're fearful, they don't know who I am. They would meet me and go, well, this guy's not too bad. He did a good job, and he didn't kill the deal. He didn't frighten the buyers and sellers or anything like that. And so I started getting those. So there's a place for that. But I think once you get to that 80-20, then it's less emphasis.
Right.
If that makes sense. Yeah,
absolutely.
It depends on where you are in your cycle.
Right. And the one thing Jim didn't tell you, but I will, is that he's brilliant on he actually wrote a book on search engine optimization. I've got it on one of my computers here. He knows a lot about what Google's looking for, and I try to keep up with him on some of that stuff. Well, now, and Jim and I talked a little bit in the pre interview here, and Jim he's a one-man shop, which I highly respect, and he has a highest fee per inspection of anybody that I know, but is providing more value. But he had employees and went back to the model because of that. I mean, it's a headache, I'll tell you. I'll be the first one to tell you. Yeah. How do you, Jim? How do you handle like your calls and scheduling? How does that work?
Well, one of the first things that I did once I established myself online is I made sure that you could schedule online.
Okay.
So since I answer my own phone, I really wanted people to go to the website, and I would push people to the website to fill out the information. Since I'm answering the phone and early on doing 2 inspections a day at least, it was hard for me to answer the phone. I never liked trying to answer the phone, and I know there's debates on both sides of this. Some people say,
sure,
yeah, answer the phone, it's your next client. Other people will say, well, no, I don't. This client's paying me a lot of money to stand here and listen to what I have to say. I'm not going to take a call. So I try to push them toward that. Text, who I was never really comfortable with at first, I'll be honest with you. But I started having agents who would text me. That's better, too, because, again, I don't have to answer the phone. I can text them. I can get back to them when I can. So I do all that myself and automate it as much as I can. Now, I'm using the ISN system. And I'm sure people listening know what that is. And that's wonderful about once I put in the order for the inspection that several parties get the email notices, and it saves phone calls, because the selling agent doesn't call me back and say, what time are you going to be there? The buyer's agent doesn't call me back and say, well, when do I need to be there? It's all lined out in an email series, punch it and go. And that's a beautiful thing. That's worth, just that piece is worth the price of ISN right there, just to, when you're in a single shop, just to be able to put it in one time and let it go. Once it's done, man, and you're moving on, and then you upload the report and you're done then. And so those two things, pushing them to the internet and to the web to schedule, and then using ISN is really helps me. My phone doesn't ring that much, which is kind of a good thing.
Yeah, you get that it doesn't ring, but you get that message, online schedule.
That's right. Yep.
That's nice.
Yep. That's a great. So I've only been on it about, I guess, a year and a half now, but I should have been on it several years ago because it's just a really nice system, and I think your clients respect it too because they realize that you have a system, you have a scheduling system that they're in now. Which is, I think, makes you look a little more professional than maybe just, here's your invoice, I'm writing it out on a piece of paper. I mean,
Right.
And I've tried to do everything in my businesses with as much technology as I can. I mean, I love technology when it helps me, and so I always use a a laptop on site, and I actually send the inspection report uploaded to ISN when I'm finished, and then the client gets their report while they're standing there, which they really like. Cause the younger they are, the more they like that, because their phone beeps and they go, "Hey, look, there's my report," after we've gone through it. And so, it's that thing really helps me, because then there's not a whole lot of, well, I'll get it to you tomorrow kind of thing, or I've got to go back to the office and I've got to send it to you. So, the data package you need for your phone's a little higher than probably you'd want it to be, but it's well worth it. Just the ability to get that stuff done and out of there, because, early on I was, 10:30, 11 o'clock at night doing reports. I never do that. When I'm done, I show up for the inspection, conduct the inspection, finish the report, get my money deposited in the bank, and they get their inspection report all done within one. So it's and then on to the next. So I try to keep it as clean as possible.
I want to trade with you, Jim. Your life sounds a lot easier than mine.
Well, when you add people to it, that makes it more complicated.
And having to have even have a debt collection thing, and just on and on and on. What I'm curious, you do it on site, which I'm jealous. I haven't got to that. I want to someday. What, if you don't mind me asking, what software system do you? And I think a lot of them are good. I didn't just curious.
Yeah. And I'm always asking this question to other people, because I always think, well, if there's a better one out there.
Yeah, exactly.
I have been using Whisper's Reporter. Used to be Property Inspections. For years, since I first got into business, actually, and it's a little company based in San Antonio, and they're very responsive, and it hooks up nicely to ISN. It's one of the programs that they support, so that works well. It's just a great program. I know there are lots of it. Everybody I talk to uses different ones, but Whispers it works for me, and
sure.
And I don't have continuing cost with it, which is one of the things I kind of like. In this business, what you'll find is you'll get whacked for cost every month for signing up for stuff, and if you sit down and look at it one day, you'll go, wow, I'm paying a lot for this, I'm paying a lot for that, because it comes out of your account, or it's charged to your card, and those kind of things get away from you. So I didn't really want to sign up for something that cost me $40 a month just to have a software program, and Whispers was a one-time cost, and so I like that about it. It does everything I want it to, and they upgrade periodically. So yeah, that's what I'm using. But there are lots out there, as you say. There's, I think Dominic on the West Coast, he has an excellent program that a lot of people he gets rave reviews about that. So.
Sure. Now, does the Whisper, does it have? Can you do it on a tablet, and transfer it to your computer, or?
No, here's my routine is I have a 14-inch ThinkPad, okay, that I set up in the kitchen, and I work left to right in the house and work my way through and up and down and then back to it, and periodically I'm inputting into the report. So the idea of having a tablet with me that I have to hold or I have to hang around my neck or something, because I'm climbing, I'm getting on my hands and knees, I'm looking under things, I'm going in attic space. I couldn't wrap my head around trying to have something else to hold. I mean, there's enough I have a flashlight, and I got a tool belt and all that. And I didn't see where it would make it that much faster for me, because with the software, most of the things you're going to say are already in there, and you just drop the box down and click it. And so when I roll back through the kitchen, I'll complete a quarter of the report at that point and move on. And so it's easy enough that I wouldn't really think about changing now. Yeah, I mean, I do like it that Apple is going to come out with a Pro version of their iPad, which is larger, almost the size of a 13-inch laptop, which would be intriguing. But I just don't know about trying to carry it around. I mean, I've dropped cameras before. I've dropped, you drop things.
Oh,
I don't want to drop a $500 tablet.
Yeah, I've crawled through a crawl space with at the time a $499 digital Mavica, which was state of the art at the time, and I crawled right through a puddle in the crawl space, soaked right through my coveralls, ruined the camera. Man, I was sick.
Yeah.
I've used it on 2 inspections. Well, I'm going to combine these two questions, Jim. Stephen Covey talks about, we try to, use a lot of this in our business. But one of his 7 habits is sharpening the saw, or the people pay us for knowledge, and building things change. Is there something you do, or with associations, or anything you do to sharpen the saw, keep your knowledge, your skill set sharp?
Well, one of the things that I did a number of years ago is I decided to go ahead and get my real estate broker's license.
Right. Smart.
And what that does for me is there aren't, for every 100 agents, real estate agents, there are 2 brokers. It's hard to get that designation, and but what it does is it puts you into a group where you're a broker, so you get invited to things that as a vendor you would not.
Right.
And I find that to be a lot of help, is because I make it clear to people that, because once I've arrived, they know I'm a home inspector. It's okay, but I did get invited because I am a broker. So it's not like I crashed the party, but I'm not also there to take their business or anything like that. And that has been helpful to me, because you really get to understand what they are looking for in an inspector, and the fits that they have with clients, buyers, sellers, and everything else that you really don't, a picture that you might normally get just being a home inspector and only attending home inspection association meetings. And so that helps a lot. And of course, we have continuing education, because we do have a license here. So I have continuing education on both sides for being a broker, as well as being an inspector, as well as being a pest control operator. So that's another one.
Oh, wow.
Lots and lots of education and conferences to attend, and so yeah, it's that. And those are the things I like to do. And I will tell you that one of the things I found is you got to be real careful about home inspector associations, because they can get really negative. And
yeah,
I'm involved in some, and I've seen you at some conferences where it is fantastic. I mean, there are people who are like-minded, and it is the best time, and you learn a ton. But I go to, and sometimes I hate to say it, local meetings, and it is just the opposite. I mean, there's a bunch of crotchety old fellows sitting around complaining about everything,
realtors,
and then comparing notes how smart they are, about how much they know about things. And it's not me at all. I'm thinking, no, I'm not supposed to be in here. And
exactly.
so you gotta. I don't know. I've been kind of disappointed by the statewide and the local associations like that. So I'm a member of InterNACHI. I love their educational products, and so I get a lot from there too. I think they're a very forward-thinking organization, and they're really the only one besides a local chapter, a local Texas chapter, that InterNACHI is where I get a lot of good invitation and material, because they seem to always have something new coming out, and I enjoy it. And those people have a tendency to think like us, and they're kind of nice to be around, and they're positive, and you can share information with them, and they'll share it with you. So.
Good stuff. Well, Jim, let's say that I'm a buyer or real estate agent in Houston or Katy. Now, there are other home inspectors in your market. Why should I hire you? Is there something you do that others don't?
Well, I hate to say the experience part, but that's probably one that they don't have to worry about who they're getting when I'm there. So I have a reputation that they know exactly what they're going to get, and I think the fact that most don't show up for inspections is a testament to the way that I treat their clients. I think they expect I treat their clients as well as they do, and there's no need to show up. So it is not very often that an agent shows up.
Right.
They know that they're going to get, as soon as I'm leaving the appointment, they're getting the inspection report, and if they have any questions, they can call me. I think that's so. The experience piece is I think important. And there aren't that many people that have done 5,000 inspections.
Right.
And I also have the ability to offer all of the other ancillary services, which not that many people do, because you have to get other license for that. So I'll add the termite inspection, pool inspection, sprinkler system inspection, and then the home inspection with the infrared camera evaluation of the house. So it's kind of a little bit of a unique package in that you usually don't get all those things. And a lot of times people call and say, "You mean I can schedule all those with you?" Well, yeah, that overshadows the price deal. So, well, if we don't have to call all these other people and negotiate prices on 4 different things, and maybe maybe we should just so that makes it helpful. And they also understand, agents do, 80% of my business, that I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking to the client about things that just aren't that important. I mean, in the state of Texas, we have a laundry list of things we have to list, like doors not latching, windows that don't latch, screens that are missing, stuff that's trivial, but it has to be on the report. I mean, to keep our license, we got to put it on there. But I try my best to get through that as quickly as possible, because that can be 2 pages long, just the list of that, and focus on the things that are really important. And the biggies, the HVAC system, the foundation, and the roof are the big ones in our location that people really need to hear about if they're going to be, if they're going to be over 1,000 or 2. They need to know about. And I focus on those things and not everything else. And I think when I was younger in the business, I really spent a lot of time on all the minutia. And I didn't understand that there are only certain things that are important, and that's what really the people need to hear about. And that's what agents like to know is, tell me what's important, because they're the ones who get the phone call if something goes wrong, because they have a relationship with the buyer. You and I really don't. I mean, we do, but it's very surfacey compared to that agent who's driven them around every weekend for 3 months. They get to know each other real well, so they're going to go right back to the agent. Agent wants to make sure that it's handled correctly, and if there is something that's bad there, that they get informed about it and get it explained to them, and then get some kind of pricing on it.
No, excellent. And we talked, I hope you don't mind me saying this, we talked in the pre-talk, and what Jim was saying, that he does the infrared, several value added to his clients there. I hope you don't, did you mind me saying your average inspection fee?
Yeah, it's around $750 now.
Yeah, wow. Mine's $450. I mean,
but it's all relative. Understand? I mean, you're a multi-inspector firm. I mean, it's different. You're not. The reason it's so high, and that I don't do more inspections, is because the market gets real small. As you get toward the top of the pricing pyramid, think of it as a pyramid, there are less inspections at that top.
I'm totally with you. I want to be you.
As you hire more people, you got to move down that pyramid, right? And then there's, and then your average at $450, you get a lot more inspections, and that's how you keep your people busy. So it's kind of all relative to where you put yourself in the marketplace.
Well, and absolutely for the listeners out there, there's advantages either way. I mean, like Jim, he could advertise one way and market. He's got an angle, and I could. He could market that, one of the things, you get the owner of the company every time. You don't get somebody who, has been there 6 months. You get the owner of the company, and you get, and that is a huge advantage. Now, I would counter that with, now what is it? You market to what you're not, or market against what you're not, or whatever.
Right.
My counter argument would be that we can accommodate you. We've got enough people, and, that, you know what I mean? Like, you
that's
got
right. We
can
be there tomorrow. Yeah,
exactly.
We can get somebody. You sign a contract this afternoon, and we'll have somebody there in the morning to do the inspection, which is beautiful. I can't do that. I'm out 3 or 4 days. And
right.
And people, and still clients will wait until the last minute, and they will call and go, "I only got 2 days. What do you mean you can't get to me for 3? I can't." And then I'll wind up trying to move something or something like that. So yeah, there's an advantage there. And I'm sure with that many people, you have somebody answering the phone too. To me, that's an advantage because like I said, when I'm with a client, I will not answer the phone, and people like to talk to people. They want to speak to a real live person, and if I can get them on the phone, it's great. But if I'm not answering it doesn't help. So
yeah, well, another disadvantage of having people is sooner or later I'm going to hear the dog ate my homework, so to speak.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that when it's your own. And I tell you, I'm jealous of you at times, Jim. Trust me. Well, let's move to this one. And I know I know you do a real quality inspection, and you're really good with your realtors and stuff, but. I also know you've done 5,000 inspections, so, what I'm getting at is if you do enough inspections, you're going to have an unhappy camper. It's just inevitable. How do you handle an unhappy camper? Do you have a process? What's that look like?
Well, I think about that because compare notes with other inspectors, and I have been, believe it or not, just very fortunate. So in all of those inspections and all those years, I have had 2 or 3. I know this sounds crazy, that I've had to deal with, where I've had to do something, to go do some research or whatever. I just don't get a whole lot of those, and I know they're out there because, look, let's face it, when we do an inspection, we will inspect a dishwasher, and there has got to be a time when those people got in there and that dishwasher didn't work. Right? I mean, right. It's inevitable, and it didn't have anything to do with what kind of inspector I am, and I just don't get those calls, and I'm not sure I know why. It's, somebody said one time that if you're a nice person and people like you, they're less inclined to complain about things than if you are just kind of horsey and you're a matter of fact about your job and that kind of thing. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but I don't have to deal with it too often. Now, here, I guess 6 months ago, I had a guy call that I inspected a $1 million home way out in the country, and he had a roofer come in. The roof was leaking. Had a roofer come in, and the roofer, said, "Well, boy, your inspector should have told you about this. You got I think he said $18,000.
Oh my
gosh!" And I said. So we're going back and forth, and I thought, well, okay, let me just look at this, so I drove out there. I looked at the house and realized that where he had the leak, I couldn't see. I couldn't, because it was a 3-story structure. I did not get on the 3rd story, and I think I knew where he was talking about, where there was a leak because water was running back under the soffit, and there's no way But the trick was, this was a year and a half ago that I did the inspection.
Wow.
So, what happened there is I got thrown under the bus by a contractor who said, well, yeah, your inspector should. But it's clear that you can't go back in a year and a half or 2 years and go back to somebody and say, well, yeah, you should have found this or something like that. And so in that case, I just wrote him a nice letter and I explained to him that, this, I don't mind taking care of something because I went back, took photographs and all that and stuff, and from my angle, it looked just like it did when I did the inspection a year and a half ago. So, he was okay with that. So do I have a protocol for it? No, because I deal with them as they come up, and just not a whole lot of them come up. I've been blessed because I know they can, because of the volume I have done in the past. There had to have been situations where, and occasionally I'll get a seller that's upset about, left the air condition at the thermostat setting or something like that.
Oh yeah.
But for the most part, I haven't had that issue. And
well, and when the seller complains, it's not right after you leave the property. It's not even that day. It's 2 or 3 days later when they get the repair request.
Right.
Now they're pissed about something you did, because they're like, that dang home inspector. It's like their little way to get them back or something.
Yeah, it was working fine before he got here. Yeah.
I
heard that one before, and I usually say yes, ma'am, but if you'll turn that little switch on the counter, that's for the dishwasher, and it will work. Right. And then they go, oh, well, never mind. Click.
Oh yeah. And the bathroom outlet. There's a reset. You just got you got to go in that hall bath.
Punch it.
Reset it. Yeah. Exactly.
And then they don't apologize. They just hang up.
Oh no. They don't even apologize when you drive all the way out there and push it.
Right.
They don't apologize at all. They're still indignant. I mean, it's kind of like, well, there's something else I'm going to be mad at you for. I just hadn't figured out what it is yet.
Yeah.
Well, your business model is sounding better and better to me all the time. We're going to get into some highs and lows here, Jim. But first, let's take a pause for our sponsors.
Hey, home inspectors out there. I'm going to tell you a creative, inexpensive way to increase your business massively. Go to homeinspectionflyers.com and get the flyers. You get 5 flyers a month. You customize them to yourself. They're turnkey, they're creative, and it's $29 a month for 5 flyers. That's less than $6 a flyer. And they are done by yours truly, Preston Sandlin, and I am a creative guy, especially when I don't take my medication. But I come up with some crazy stuff. It works for my business. I went from 1 inspector to 7 inspectors with this strategy alone. So again, for $29.95, you get 5 flyers. I do 1 per week. I send them off to get copied on the internet. I can get them for about 7 cents a piece, and I put them out in the boxes when I do my candy run. Works fantastic. HomeInspectionFlyers.com. Thanks.
All right, Jim. Well, we're back here, and you've been dropping some gold nuggets all over the place, and I've been taking some notes. I hope all the listeners have, unless, of course, they're driving. Just back up and play it again.
Yeah. There you go.
But, Jim, tell us about a time when you failed. Take us there and what you learned from it.
Well, I think that when I first started in the business, that I failed kind of miserably the first couple of years. Okay. And I now understand I was coming from a corporate background where I had advanced through the ranks to an officer position in a Fortune 500 company. And everything I had done until then was pretty much worked, right? I mean, I did all the right things, and then when I got into the inspection business, there were really a couple of years there where I just I failed. I mean, I was living off savings basically, and trying to make this thing work. And the way that I got out of that is that I attended a conference in Dallas, and I could barely scrape together the money because I had the money, but I didn't even really want to go because I didn't want to spend the money. And I was looking at all the things that they were talking about from a marketing perspective. Mm-hmm. And I met Gordon there for the first time, Gordon Fox, an inspector here in Houston. And I said, hey, look, you don't know me, but we're both in Houston. I hope you don't mind us chatting. But I'm not doing that well, in the inspection business. Been in a couple of years. I'm a reasonably bright guy. I can't seem to get this thing going. And what do you think about the proposal that these marketing people are talking about here? And he said, well, it is expensive, but you can't afford not to do it, because if you don't take advantage of the marketing that's provided and the training, you will be out of business before very long because of what you just told me. Is you've been failing now for a couple of years. This is going to be it for you if you don't do this.
Right.
So I bit the bullet, and I said, okay, I've been looking at this thing all wrong. I had that mentality: if I build it, they will come. Right? If I got my right. They'll be beaten. They'll be there. And it did not work, and I kind of spent a couple of years just failing. That was a rude awakening for me until I understood that it's not really about the inspection piece; it's about marketing the inspection services, and that kind of turned it around for me. So that was a tough couple of years, and I remember looking back and thinking, man, I was lucky that I made 2 years because I was bleeding cash, and when you got kids and house payments, car payments, all that kind of stuff, and you're trying to do that, it's tough. So that was the big failure point for me, and then I got the rude awakening that I have to spend some money in order to make some money, and I've kind of been doing it ever since.
I hear you. Well, and you touched on something there, Jim, that it's the worst business thing I've. There's I don't know who wrote it, Emerson or somebody was like, if you build a better mousetrap, the world will be the path to your door. Mm-hmm. BS. Yeah. BS. I call BS, and that is the worst business advice ever. Having a better mousetrap is good, but you got to have the best. You got to have the best path to your door than anybody else, because I always say, I'll give you the example. And this came out of one of the business books I read. Can you make a better hamburger than McDonald's? Absolutely. I bet you could make one tonight better than McDonald's makes. But can you build a better distribution center? I mean, and own, top real estate on the top corners of the world. I mean, but what I'm getting at is, I think what you said, a lot of us get stuck in that technician mindset that if we're just the absolute best technician, and don't get me wrong, being a great technician is important, but there's more to it. That's
right.
not going to be enough, because the world's not going to be passed to your door, and Gordon was right about that. On the other end of the spectrum, Jim, have you had a moment where you thought, man, I've come a long way? Have you had that moment?
Well, actually, I think it was a couple 3 years ago when I had a $5,000 week, and
nice,
but I only did 7 inspections.
Wow,
and
that's pretty good.
I thought at that point, this is the part of the market that I need to be in, and
right.
So that was a aha. Well, maybe all this stuff I've been doing, it actually does make some sense. And now you have to understand, I'm kind of selective in the market that I work in. Instead of taking everything, I try to only take what I think is worth my time and effort. And I have a tendency to do larger homes, and I have a tendency to add on all those things, what I call a grand slam, when I do 4 inspections. I do 4 different, the home inspection and the ancillary services, pool,
right,
and termite. And that was kind of when I looked at that, I thought, now that's, finally that's I've gotten to the marketplace where I need to be. And even though it still goes up and down with the season because of home sales, we're directly tied to that. That's the kind of marketplace that I want to work in. It doesn't really lend itself to me having other inspectors working for me, because at that point I have to back down and I have to stop charging people $1,200 for an average relocation. I can't, they're not going to do that because I wouldn't be showing up. And I know people, I don't want to sound vain, but people expect to see me when they pay that kind of money. And
right.
And I've worked my way into that, and that's the market that I address. But I've always approached it a little bit differently. Is that I dress a little differently. I've always worn a starch shirt and slacks. I've never worn jeans and tennis shoes. I'm not into big trucks with lots of big signs all over them and stuff like that. Normally people, when I'm on the job, they think I'm an appraiser or another agent or a broker or something like that. With the exception of seeing a tool belt on my hip, they don't see me as a home inspector, and it's not a bad thing. But I've always tried to look like the type of person that someone was about to write a check for maybe $1,000 to. I don't. It's silly, I know, but I don't know. I just think that I don't want a guy that looks like he just like he's going to cut the grass. I did write a fat check to him. Because I'm thinking, well, gee, anybody could cut the grass. Why would I pay you this big check? But I'll go to the home inspection meetings, and those guys have T-shirts on and jeans and run over tennis shoes, and that's the way they show up. And my clients have a tendency to be affluent, and they're not looking for me to look like that when I walk in. And so I don't know. It's just one of those.
No, I think it's
one
brilliant.
Of those things.
Well, if I could wear a starch shirt and get $750 in inspection, man, I'm going to Brooks Brothers tomorrow. I think you might be on to something there, Jim.
Well,
Jim, do you have a favorite book you could recommend to our listeners?
Well, and you may have seen that. The Wally Conway's book, The Happy Home Inspector. I think that what he was able to do is to most home inspection books are all about home inspection. That's
right.
what they're about. That book is all about the buyer and taking care and servicing the buyer and avoiding risk. And it's, to me, if you understand what he talks about in that book, that's when you become much more valuable to the agents, because you're on the same path with them, because they want their buyer to be happy. And they have to figure out where they fit into the whole circle of all the services that's going to be provided for that buyer. And that book kind of pulls it all together. And I absolutely loved it. And that's one that I think that if people are going to get into the home inspection business, that they need to read that, because
right.
when you start the home inspection business, you will read those. You've seen them. You've got some on your shelf right now. The big manuals, right, are all about framing, all about roofing, all about plumbing, all that stuff. But this one's really the business perspective of it, and it puts you on the same level of providing services that the agent's on, that the appraiser's on, that the mortgage broker is on, all that. And that's one that I would definitely tell everybody to read that. And I refer back to that and quite a bit, because I don't think there's another book out there quite like that takes all that into consideration. And of course, when I'm not doing the business thing, I don't read as much now, but I'm into the Audible. You made I'm on their monthly thing, have been for years, where I'll get a book a month and stuff like that. And my latest on that is Killing Patton. Believe it or not,
really.
I'm fascinated by that. Of course, my dad was in the service, so that's kind of all comes together for me when I listen to that, and I think it's absolutely fascinating. So I do actually get out of the business a little bit that way.
Yeah, no, I'm a big history buff, and I love that was one of my favorite movies with George C. Scott. Well, is it? Let me add, just getting off the home inspection thing, but I'm really curious. Is it? I've always heard there was a what do you call it, conspiracy, because he wanted to, didn't he want to go ahead and invade Russia or something?
Yeah, there were lots of unanswered questions in the way the whole thing.
He was in a car wreck or something.
Yep, he was in a car wreck, and they could never find the guy who actually ran it. The guy who was driving the truck that hit him, they never found him.
Yeah, it was very maybe somebody wanted to shut him up, although he may have been on to something there. They just he was a little bit ahead of his time or something.
Yeah, it's fascinating. You should get it on Audible and
I will
just listen to it, because I walk, I exercise every day. I walk 3 miles a day. So podcasts are another way that I improve myself, sharpen my saw. I'm always listening to a podcast when I'm out, or a book. I'll rotate one to the other, and to me that's a great time to do that, because if not, I won't. Once I get, I get up at 5:30 and do my routine. Once I get past about 8 o'clock, it's a full run to the inspection business. So I have to make sure I get something in that time. So I think developing a habit early in the morning has always worked for me. So I know some people are not really keen on that, but
absolutely no. And I listen to books and I listen to podcasts, and that's how this came about. Because I kept asking myself, man, I wish there was a podcast for home inspectors.
Yeah.
And there wasn't, so I made one.
There you go. Yeah.
I wish maybe one day I'll get them out more frequently, but I'm still running a home inspection business, so try to. But well, you spoke earlier, Jim, and we're starting to wind down here. We're like 5, 6, 7 more questions, and I really appreciate your time. You spoke earlier about that contractor who threw you under the bus, and I know it doesn't happen to you that often, but do you have, for a lot of listeners, it's probably a pain that they have to deal with fairly often. Your inspector should have fill in the blank.
Right.
Do you have any ideas of? I mean, I don't think we can stop it or prevent it, but I mean, what's your thoughts on it? Is there anything we can do
to help with
the contractor?
When they have a problem, when they have an issue.
Yeah, or just I don't know. A lot of folks have said become friends with some contractors so you can have your guy go over there, or a lot of times these contractors use scare tactics to I mean, I don't know. They either they don't know the standards of practice, and obviously when they tear open a wall, if there is that, there's no way that the home inspector, but now they pour gas on fire. And, some of these TV shows certainly haven't helped either. And, I don't want to name any names because I don't want to get sued. But I'm sure most home inspectors have seen that show, start yelling at the TV going, there's no way the inspector could have seen that. And, it creates unrealistic expectations, I think. But people are watching this, and the perception is you should have seen through that wall, and you should have been able to predict the future. I mean, I don't really know what I've
hurt our business quite a bit, actually. I think that because when they do start tearing out walls on a show, it is totally different than what we do. And when they say, well, he should have noticed that because there was a little spot somewhere, and when he tears the wall out, well, look here. Well, yeah, of course, you tore the wall out, and it probably took you a week to make that little 30-minute show. and it's not reality. And I think a lot of people, focus on that, and that's their expectation. And I just try to be. I never try to gloss over anything, and I try to be straight, direct. And if they have a question about something, I will address that as soon as possible. As soon as they call me, I'll try to address whatever I need to do. I got a call from a hot tub the other day. The guy, his Whirlpool tub was leaking.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to go, and you've done this, I had to go back and say, well, let me look at the report. Well, wait a minute, you had a cracked jet in the tub. Well, it's missing, and you used the tub without. He said, well, that jet doesn't have anything to do with the water. I said, no, the water goes through the jet, okay? And he said, I don't think you tested the tub. Well, I take a photo. You may do that too. I take a photo of the tub running, so I know that it was running. So I sent him that, and that was the end of that one. So I'm usually able to I address them quickly. I don't try to avoid them, and I have a nice, logical conversation, and usually they go away. Usually they always go away. And so is there a magic to it? I don't know. If I had a real high volume of complaints, I would probably put some kind of system in place. I don't know what that would be. That would would be immediately me as the owner of the business going out and trying to figure out what's going on, and then making some kind of amends with that. I still have that guarantee, and then you may too, that if you don't like the service before you get your inspection report, then you don't have to pay for it. Or if you've got a problem, I'll give you what you can gain is your feedback. Well, for me, the fee can be $1,000. I'm not real keen on giving the feedback for something that it's not much to it. And
right.
So back when my fee was $200, it wasn't that big a deal. But now that it's so much more, I'm a little hesitant to do that. But I've always just been able to handle it. And I don't know if I would think with multiple inspectors, you increase the chance every time you hire somebody. You increase the chance of having more callbacks, which is what contractors call them. So. So I don't really have a system for that. I wish I did, I guess.
Well, there's in every person you hire, there's a learning curve. And, it takes a while to become a seasoned inspector. I tell all my guys, I said, you know how meat is seasoned? I said, meat is seasoned with, you beat it with a hammer and you rub salt into it. It's pretty much the same way with inspectors.
There you go.
So get used to it. Well, a couple more questions here, Jim. I'm sorry, I may be going over a little bit, but it's great stuff's been shared. I had this question, but I'm starting to see this get a lot better. My question was going to be about home inspector forums. Used to, I would go on some of these forums, and there would be some helpful people on there, but there would also be some of these people you described earlier at your local meetings that wanted to show how smart they were, and I was going to ask you what your opinion of that is, or how we could fix that or make the profession look better. But I might answer it for you and then let you chime in on it. What I have seen is a lot of people start Facebook groups now. I mean, it's so easy to start a group.
Right.
And I've noticed a lot of home inspectors, several people I've had on this show actually have started groups. And, it's just, it's not tolerated if somebody gets, ugly, with people, and they're just kicked out of the group. So they are monitoring and policing. It's getting a lot better. But, do you have any ideas or feelings on that? I just hated, when I talk to so many people, it's like, I used to go on forums, and I'd see and I just decided not to. It was unprofessional, and I got off of it. I stopped going on them. You get those.
Yeah. And I did the same thing. There was one national one, and I'm sure I don't even remember the name of it. I would tell you but it was a big one, and lots of people on there, and what I saw is that everybody's sniping everybody. Everybody's trying to one-upmanship stuff, and it just drives me crazy. It's like, and I made a statement one time about my philosophy of I really wanted to do less inspections and charge a lot more for the inspection. That was my goal and the responses back, they actually were so nasty that the moderator had to take them off because it said inappropriate comment. And one I did get to read, though, it said, oh, you just want to do something for nothing, or you just want to charge too much, or you just something like that. And after that, I just said, I get enough of this at my local meeting. I don't really need to do that. So I don't. But yes, the Facebook groups I think are great because you can control those a lot more. And if somebody gets a little out of line on there, you can shut it down pretty quickly. The big forums that are kind of nationwide, anybody can participate. I think those are the ones where the trolls hang out, and it's better just to stay away from it because it'll drive you kind of crazy because you take it personal when people make statements like that. So
I finally what's that pig in mud? Don't wrestle with pig in mud because it only gets you dirty and the pig likes it.
That's right. That's right. Yep. So I try to avoid them and just kind of go do my thing. So. I haven't missed anything yet, I don't think.
No. And, some of those Facebook groups, if you get into some, like you alluded to, some of the marketing, you need to get with some like-minded people, and those people tend to be pretty positive, and pretty forward-thinking. And some of that stuff you were talking about, that haterade or whatever, it's really jealousy and fear. They're not doing a whole lot of business, and they think it's because guys like you who look at your business like a business and not like a technician. It's your fault, Jim.
Right.
But
because they're absolutely convinced that if they know enough code, that they are going to be the best in the world, and they should be paid like the best in the world, and that is just not life. And it doesn't really work that way in anything. I think that. I heard one time this Dr. Phil guy who's so famous is really not that great of a psychiatrist, but people like him. They like his presentation, and he's fabulously famous and wealthy. But and I'm sure psychiatrists look at him and go, "Oh, he's not that good. He's not that good." But he probably owns a yacht or two and an airplane, and if he's not that good, he does okay.
Well, just like there's a lot of doctors don't like Dr. Oz, and although if you ever read all the stuff he does, it's crazy. There must be two of him. And we're getting off topic just a little bit, but going back to Robert Kiyosaki, I remember one of his books. He was on a show, and he was like a best-selling author, because of this Rich Dad Poor Dad stuff. And there was another woman who was an author of some type, and she was just like so ugly to him and like snooty and snobby, and he told him, you're not an author, you're blah, 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 and his takeaway from it was they said I was a best-selling author, not the best author, because she was trained in classical plot, fiction, and So anyway, moving right along. Now, remember, this is a G-rated show, Jim, when you answer this question. What's the craziest, wildest, weirdest thing you found on a home inspection?
I guess about a year ago. I always find tons of little bitty multitude of things with flip houses. I have actually done flip houses, and they are the worst to inspect, and they're always when I get a call from a client who says, "Man, everything's been replaced in this house, Jim, you can't find anything wrong with it." That's the kiss of death right there, because I know that this is going to be a long one. I'm probably going to have plenty of video because I'm going to look what they did here. But about a year ago, I guess I was doing an inspection on a $500,000 house, and in Houston, you could for $500,000 you can buy a pretty decent house, and it was super large, and the roof is one of the drying the house is one of the first things they do. And this house took about 6 months to build. And so the roof was one of the first things to go on. They want to dry it in. But in that case, they left the cap off the chimney.
Ooh.
And so, it was a box, basically a fake chimney with a vent pipe coming up through it. And they left the top off of it. And it had rained for 6 months. Into the top of that, 3x3 chimney, down the wall, into the family room, and the floor was starting to buckle. And this house hasn't sold yet. I mean, this guy's he's calling me because he's going to closing in 2 weeks. And so that was one of those things that no one would believe that. So I put together a video of it. Here, and I'm in the attic, and I put my camera in there and look up in the sky. But they did put a cap on the chimney flue, but it was 6 foot down in this wood box.
Oh, God.
Not only could it rain in there, but if they actually started the fireplace, it would go up like a match because it was basically a match inside of a wood box. And that's yet the craziest thing that I've looked at in the last year or so. And nobody. That's why you have to videotape this stuff. And I always tell everybody, hey, you always have your phone, have your camera, videotape it, because no one will believe you. Because they'll just say you're like an old fisherman. You're just telling old fish stories. Yeah, that didn't really happen. And then you pull your phone out and go, no, look, see, this really did happen. And so that was it. It was crazy. And the buyer could not. I mean, he couldn't figure it out. I mean, he was just like, "You're kidding." That's. And then so I take moisture. We got a 3-story house with moisture on the first floor from the top, and quite a mess. And I'm not sure what happened after that. Whether the guy actually bought the house or not. I think I probably wouldn't buy the house just because with a roof open for that long, he's probably got other problems too. So.
Yeah. There's no tell. I mean, it's not like they I'm sure there's other things they didn't. The workmanship is not good. I just wish I would have had a camera back on some of the stuff pre-smartphone. There's so much stuff that I saw that I thought I would have known now. I would have recorded it.
Right.
Well, Jim, do you have a training or internet or marketing resource you'd be willing to share with the listeners?
Well, I tell you one thing I discovered a couple of years ago is an online resource called Fiverr. You may have used it.
Oh, yeah.
I have discovered that organization, for lack of a better word, you can have so many things done at a very reasonable price. I know that they get stuck on the $5 thing. Well, trust me, if you get anything done of substance, it'll be more than $5, but it still won't be expensive. And
it's professional quality.
Yeah, I had to move an old website to a new one, and and I just couldn't see spending all the hours. I mean, I did that when I got into business because I had hours to spend and I could do that. But for a couple $100, I had the entire website moved over. I had a bunch of extra things done to my WordPress site, and that's just a great resource. Now, and I think there are some other ones out there that compete with it, but I've always been able to find everything I need right there. And very creative people. If you need a logo, if you all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, they'll do videos for you, and real professional. Looks good.
I like that. And see, that stuff just didn't exist years ago. I mean, you had to spend hours on your own, or you hired some media company and they would charge you.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you just wouldn't do it because it'd be too expensive. Forget that.
I was going to get a while back. I had this great idea that, the home inspector, the stager, we would all have a film crew come out and film us do this whole house and kind of before and after and how to sell. You know how much it costs to get a film crew out to a house? With all the lights. I mean,
a lot more than your iPhone.
Yeah, it was going to be. It was pushing $10,000. Because they got to have sound. I mean, I was going to do it professional, like HGTV type sort of thing. Woo! And we were kind of going to do it as a pilot and try to sell it to HGTV was what we really wanted to do. But I was like, man, it was like $8,000. I'm like, that's an expensive roll of the dice, and there's no guarantee there. So, but it was amazing to me how expensive. I thought it'd be maybe $2,000-$3,000. No, it was like $8,000, and this was several years ago. Yeah. Well, Jim, is there anything you're working on right now that has you jacked up or excited?
Well, yes, I have. I've thought about this for a number of years, and when I first got into the business and I was struggling there, I was searching, and things were different 15 years ago. There wasn't near as much marketing information out there and all. And I went online and I found a little book, and it was one of these. It had the little plastic spine to it. You have them in schools a lot where they punch the holes in it. It has a little plastic spine and sits on the.
Right.
It was like $79, but what it was about how to market home inspection services, and very basic. I mean, we're talking 101. It had letters in there that you'd send to a selling agent thanking them for that kind of stuff. We just basic stuff, and that was really, really helped me along with joining the marketing organizations and all, really kind of get focused in. And it was kind of one of the first things I bought and $80 at that time was a lot of money. So what I would like to do is to put together a program like that, only based on video, that's primarily for new home inspectors, not for established guys like you and I, but for new inspectors, because I've seen lots of guys come and go in this business, and they all think once I get the license, I'm good, I'm golden, right? And it's not the way it works. And having a resource for them that they can go and take a course that's strictly about marketing, talks nothing about how to do the home inspection, but the web university is one of the guy puts out some great programs like that, and I bought several of his programs, and basically you go through it, and there will be 6 or 8 chapters, and it's 15, 20 minutes of video talking about these things. I want to put together something like that for the kind of the newbies or the people struggling. I think that's, I mean, the guys like you and I have been around long enough. You can't tell us a whole lot of new stuff, but I mean, there's some new out there, but the guys really struggling, I think, can use something like that, and that's kind of got me excited, because I've got enough time now that I can put toward that. I can put all the videos together and stuff. And it's going to be kind of expensive, but I think once I get finished, it'll be a nice product. That I don't think there's a product like that out there, and
awesome.
That's got me kind of fired up, and hope to get that done in the next 6 months or so, and then get it introduced out there.
Sure. Now, will you have because a lot of people listen to this, unless you object, this podcast is going to have a life for a long time.
Right.
Maybe by the time somebody listens to this, are you going to have a link to your website, or what's your website?
I will probably have something on. Yeah, and the best way to if people want to get in touch with me is aboutthehouse.com. Aboutthehouse.com. Believe it or not, and I had to pay dearly for that domain name, as you can imagine, because
I bet.
Yeah, it was a fierce bidding match for that. But aboutthehouse.com, or just Jim Davis at aboutthehouse.com as an email address. So either one of those. And I'll I post videos on there and all, and that'll be a way to contact me. And I'll probably put something on there when I introduce the program, and people will be able to see it there. So. Yeah, just getting in the business is going to be for them. It's really not for the more established guys that you and I kind of hang around with at conferences. But for the guys just getting started, or in the first couple of years, it'll be something that they can go back to time and time again and look at it and go, okay. And I think it's not theory at all. It is exactly what I have done, and the reason I have gotten where I am today. And hopefully that will be useful to somebody if they'll
absolutely. Yeah. Well, also send me the link when you get it together, Jim, and I'll put it on the show notes for this because this podcast will have a life. There'll be somebody listening to it. Because when I find a podcast I like, I go back and listen to all the old episodes.
That's right.
I go all the way through it, and I'm sure that hopefully there'll be some people doing the same. Well, we're winding down here, Jim. If you had to move to a brand new town equal to the size of Houston, which wouldn't be many, because Houston's like the 4th largest city.
Yep.
But pretend like there's a fictional city out there the same size as Houston. You still had all your knowledge, all your equipment, everything. The only thing is you just don't know anybody. You're starting afresh here, and you had $5,000 to start marketing. What are you going to do in that first week with $5,000? So basically, what's your best return on investment with that?
Best return if I just walked in and didn't know a soul, I would do office presentations.
Right.
That's number one. That would be it. I would get out there and make every one of those, and I would buy lunch for every one of those. If they had after hours, I would buy drinks and dinner afterwards. I think you've got to be a presence. You've got to get right in there. That would be immediate. And I think that now that also takes a while because you've got to go through the circuit, right? You've got to do the rubber chicken thing, and you've got to keep going, and you've got to, and eventually that comes. At night, that's when you spend your time developing your online presence.
Yeah.
So those are two things that would today, as we sit here, I think would get the biggest bang for the buck the quickest. Because you can, you get after a while $5,000 and it's going to last very long, so you don't have to spend it. And that's to me the way to do that is to get out there and make presentations, get in front of people, and clean yourself up, and appear to be someone who can help them with their job. and make their job easier and help them get what they want. Like Ziegler says, right? Help enough people get what they want. You'll get what you want. Exactly. And I think that the agents need to see you as somebody who can get them what they want. They don't care as much about you, and I think we all fall into this trap thinking it's about us. It's really not. It's about them. What's in it for them, and if you can convince them that it's good for them to do business with you because it's going to help them, then that's the way to do it. And presentations will get you there. It'll get you up in front of the group and make your presentation, and lots of them will already have great inspectors like you that service them, and you're not going to get them, but it never hurts.
Absolutely. Well, Jim,
those are two things I think that would kick anybody off. I mean, unless you're in a terribly, the real estate market is just absolutely terrible. You can also take low inspections. It's no good. You can take the $250, $300 inspections, but boy, don't get in that trap.
Yeah, don't.
The first agent I ever had to fire is because she thought that every inspection I did was $300, and then when I started doing the larger homes, it was $300, and she kept quoting $300 to the buyer.
That drives me crazy.
She said, "Look, you and I cannot work together." And I know other home inspectors are going to think that's crazy. You can't fire a agent. Oh yeah, you can when they're ruining your business, and that's what she was doing. And I just, and I said something to somebody in that office, and they said, "Oh, I think I know who you're talking about, even though you won't tell me." Yeah, she's kind of that way.
Well, it drives me crazy when they quote a price and then then they want you to do that for that. I'm like,
right.
And it's a bigger home. I'm sure she's making more money on it.
Oh yeah. They always do.
Do you make the same amount for each house you sell? I mean, crazy. But anyway, well, Jim, last two questions here, and they're really. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that I should have?
Not really, man. We've covered a lot.
Oh no,
a lot
man.
Of ground here.
Yeah, man.
Covered a ton.
Know you pretty well.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to ask me?
Well, I'm always interested in what you've got. You asked me what I had going on. I'm jazzed up about. What's up in your horizon up there that you're going to do that's a little bit different that you're kind of excited about?
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you asked. And I didn't know that, listeners, that he was going to. Well, I mean, it's on the script, but I didn't. The reason, when we were talking in the pre-show, you were talking about builders' warranty inspections,
right?
How they're low liability, and I sort of have a version of that. We got contacted by the largest builder in our area here, and they wanted us to do all of their pre-listing inspections. Now, obviously, we're doing them for a little less money and whatnot, but there's a caveat. They interviewed 3 different, multi-inspector firms, but they want, not just your normal report. There's certain things they want. They're using this for accountability for all their subs. Right. And honestly, a lot of the builders right now, I'm probably going to get some hate on this, but a lot of their foremen are just glorified schedulers. Right. They got a lot of guys that aren't that experienced, so they were using the home inspection to sort of be their quality control. And anyway, long story short, we're doing like all these pre-listing inspections for them, but it's a special thing that goes into all these pie graphs and charts, which they wanted, because you got to realize these big builders, they're all corporate. They love pie charts and graphs because everybody has to report to, they're a publicly owned company. And so anyway, we've developed it, and we're getting ready to offer it to inspectors so that they can take a turnkey system and go to builders and offer it to builders to basically outsource their quality control. They have a third party inspecting it. They can advertise it. It's just a win-win-win, and it's low. There's no liability, really, because they're brand new homes.
Right.
So anyway, that's what we're excited about, and hopefully we'll get it out. We're just tweaking it right now, and I'll definitely have it on the podcast for all the listeners, but I don't want to give out the website yet because it's not quite there. It's almost.
Gotcha.
But it'll be coming out shortly. Well, Jim, thank you so much for your time. You've been more than gracious. Tell us again what website, when you get that thing out for the series of videos, where can we find that?
It's I would just go to aboutthehouse.com because I'll have something on there when it is finally introduced. And there will be a separate website for it. I just don't know what that will be, a separate domain name, but it'll be announced on the aboutthehouse.com.
Awesome.
So that'll be the best way.
What's your Facebook business page? Because I want to get all the listeners that they got some value, and of course they got value. I got tons of value, so we can get you some likes on your Facebook business. What's your Facebook business page?
Yeah, it's About the House Inspection Services.
About the House. So everybody that's not driving, go to About the House Inspection Services and give this man some likes. Let's pay him back for all the gold nuggets he gave us.
Sounds good.
Is there any way if somebody wants to find out more about you or get in touch with you that they can, Jim?
Sure. Just the email Jim Davis at aboutthehouse.com. That one will work, and be happy to answer any questions that maybe I didn't tonight, and sure, always interested in sharing knowledge.
Absolutely.
I know people do that a ton with me, and I like to return the favor.
Absolutely. And if you see Jim Davis at a conference and you got some value from it, buy this man a beer.
There you go.
What's your favorite beer, Jim? Buy this man a Corona or something.
Yeah, Shiner. You can't get it. It's only one place.
I hear you. All right. Well, thank you, Jim, and I appreciate your time, and I'm going to let you get back to the family, and I just really appreciate it and want to say thanks a lot.
Well, thank you. Talk to you soon.
All right, Jim. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for checking out the Successful Home Inspector podcast. You can find show links at thesuccessfulhomeinspector.com. Check out the website for special offers, information, and other resources. Thanks again for listening to the Successful Home Inspector podcast. And remember to check back for new episodes. The Successful Home Inspector podcast is brought to you by Preston Sandlin and Home Inspection Carolina.